Piggyback on Leader Filippi's comments. I'm just going to really be plain about this because my district is certainly, and those of you who've served with me over the years know that this is something that I will talk about at any opportunity. My district has disproportionately been affected by this the subsidized building of industrial power generation facilities where forests once stood. It's the most heavily forested part of the state, so it makes sense that it would be the most impacted. However, what finally slowed it down was the fact that the infrastructure could not handle the amount of requests. This, and what Leader Filippi points out it will do, I think is very important. Early on in this discussion, we heard a very clear academic dissection of how this works, how renewable projects work and the interconnection process works. I'm going to give you now the flip side, the real life, how it works. Again, those of us who've been here for a while, we hear from our constituents whenever a rate increase comes up from National Grid. They are upset, 53% increase or whatever percent every time we hear it. And what they're realizing in an increase is not necessarily a cost being passed on 100%. What they're realizing is we are requiring National Grid to purchase more expensive power. And they are simply passing that down to the ratepayer. That's not necessarily National Grid's fault that we're making them buy a more expensive product. This is our fault. We're now giving them the power to directly defray their costs to the ratepayers. So now when we hear from our angry constituents, it is going to be National Grid who did inflict that damage on them, but we set the table for them. That's what we're doing here. Now, I could go on and on about the absolute devastation that clear-cutting hundreds of acres of forested land has done and will continue to do over the years in my district. But if this passes, it is the Wild West, because land is relatively cheap in the forested part of our state. It's not a big deal for them to go in there and clear cut it, and they have been. In fact, there are lawsuits because they're doing it with impunity. They just go in, they don't even get approval. They start the work. They take the fines. Give me the fines, no problem. We're not going to stop working. Coventry, Rhode Island, just look at the court records. Happens all the time. This is going to amplify it. Our customers are going to get hammered on these costs while the developers are getting richer because they've gotten filthy rich since this incentive program and the subsidies from the federal and state level have come into play on renewable power generation. Filthy rich. They're going to use, this is going to be an exponential filth to their rich when we give them this power. They can now dictate. We will be building it in that part, and National Grid will support it with infrastructure. And frankly, we don't care who pays for it. It'll be the ratepayers. It'll be our constituents. It'll be the people sending us emails and calling us while they get richer, and their lawyers get richer, and their developers and their contractors get richer. And the little guy is getting boned once again. We're doing it right now, folks. So when you get those emails, look in the mirror. Don't look at National Grid.